This is the BAMO podcast with Marty Solomon. I'm his co-host, Brent Billings. Today, we're closing out session 8 with Dent.
Go Chiefs!
Just let me get through the intro before we get into the nonsense, please.
No way. I'm nonsense from the get-go.
Okay, let's try it again. I was not adequately prepared for that. Okay.
I believe in you.
This is the BAMO podcast with Marty Solomon. I'm his co-host, Brent Billings. Today, we're closing out session 8 with Dent.
Hello, everyone.
Elle Fricks.
Hi.
And Josh Bossé.
Shalom.
You know, every time we get together like this, I always wonder, why do we voluntarily do this? We get everybody together. What a wonderful little setup we have. Listen, we have an intro episode coming for session 9. The BAMA podcast continues. Have we settled on a title for session 9 yet?
No, we have not.
Oh, goodness gracious. We'll have to do that. But session 9 is coming, and there's an intro episode, as there always is, next week. And in that episode, we're going to look towards the future. We're going to tell you things that are coming. We're going to make announcements. We're going to make some we're going to have fun little conversations. There's going to be some treasures in there for those that choose to listen all the way through the episode. And we'll do all that. So today we don't need to do the looking forward thing. What we can really do today is what the Capstone lesson is for, which is looking back over session 8. So, session 8 has concluded, and a good chance just to look back. I would love to hear from everybody. So we expanded the team. In session 6, we introduced everybody. We kind of like stumbled into this. Not like we didn't have this planned for a long time. It was just this like, oh, let's do this. And then we pulled some things together. We experimented with some stuff. And then session 7 happened. I was on sabbatical. Session 7 was weird in a good way. It was just different. We got to hear from everybody in their own voices. But session 8 was where like we really had our own things. Like Elle had a series, Josh had a series, Reed had a series. Brent's the only one at this point that has heard, like as we record this, we haven't even heard the production of Josh's series. Brent's the only one that has experienced the entire session 8 canon as it exists.
Although Josh had at least one other person on all of his episodes. So all of you have at least a taste of Josh's series.
That's right. But I just wanted to ask everybody, and I don't have an order. I'll call on people if I need to. But what was it like this was like the first series where we were driving our own stuff. What has that felt like? We're evolving as a people. We're evolving as a team. What was your guys' experience with that?
It was great. I love taking turns learning from everybody and everything that everyone's passionate about, bringing to the table one at a time, getting to chip in and listen and learn. It's a dream.
What was it like having your own series, Elle? Like, what was that like, putting that together, designing it, drafting out an outline? How did you enjoy that part of it?
Yeah, I loved it. It's such a fun opportunity to really sink deep into a particular topic and go hard for a while on something that feels like there's a lot of juice there. There's a lot of treasure there. That's a lot of stuff to find. And it's fun to really pour through the text, pour through resources, and pull stuff together that feels like it'll bless the people.
And when you say that, Elle, I think I know this. I've picked this up from a distance about you. You actually do study for like that in real time. Like you're doing a series and you're doing research that leads up to it and research as you're putting that series together. Like some of us, like I almost do stuff like way in advance and then I'm pulling together a body of work later. But you're like in the midst of, not in the middle of it, but you're like, you really do study for these series that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've written 4 episodes already for next session. So we're in that process now, doing all the pulling.
Love that.
And all the stuff.
Love that.
sound effects.
Honestly, I was thinking of in Leviticus, so that's what I'm translating right now, when they have to like squeeze the bird juices out.
Sure.
So the sound effect was better than that. But since you made fun of me, to bless you with that.
I mean, you did make reference to juices, but I was picturing something like grape juice or orange juice.
Well, the word used is the same word for when you're juicing something. Got to juice the bird.
Okay.
Might I submit that for a title for our episode today?
Juicing the bird.
Juicing the bird.
Oh,
Maybe that should be our session 9 title. That's the one we've been looking for.
No comment.
that's it. Josh, let's go in a different order. You're the one that was like, your series is the one that kind of took us out to the end, to the conclusion of session 8. How did you feel about this series? Like you kind of got to do in a lot of ways well, you didn't do session 7, but your stuff kind of served as the foundation of session 7. But how do you feel about your series in this?
It was great. It was a lot of fun to be able to take a practice that I'm very passionate about and dig into it with all of you individually and get these different angles into Shabbat and what it means. And what I really liked about it too, and I think this especially came out in the episodes you and I did, Marty, was not that I like them better than the other episodes, but I did really like how it kind of got into the kind of forward-looking future, like what can we do with Shabbat? Like, I think a lot of times, even within the podcast, there could be kind of a lullaby effect, of like, oh, we gotta rest, we gotta take rest seriously, we gotta Shabbat, and taking and being like, okay, how can we rethink this in a way that actually still challenges us and isn't just about being like, hey, we're different from the productivity culture, we're going to do something different, which is always good to think about, but to continue to refresh that sense of like, oh yeah, how does that continue to deepen and challenge us? So that was good. But yeah, I always love talking about Shabbat. I came very close to planning another Shabbat-centered series for session 9, and I had to be talked down for that.
We'll get you back to Shabbat soon enough, I promise.
Oh yeah, that teaching's not going anywhere.
I love that.
Yeah, it was really good.
Reed, thanks for dragging us into the Psalms. One of my, I would say, least favorite. It's probably not the right language I want to use, but one of my books that I am the least comfortable in. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but Marty, we got this summer when we were in New Mexico together.
Yes.
We did like a little team teach on Psalms, and I thought it was really beautiful.
It was.
I mean, that was one of my favorite things that I have done with you. So it doesn't have to be dragging. It can be, we're waltzing into the Psalms.
Yeah.
Flouncing, perhaps.
Yeah.
Which, while we're here, I want us to like revisit those series and each of us talk about like some of our favorite moments. Not that everybody has to have something for every single series, but I do have to say, and it is kind of stepping out of the series content itself directly, but it has been a really good season. Everything from writing the book, where I got to interact with Reed somewhat on chapter 5, which was a lot of me quoting a lot of him in the wisdom literature stuff he's preached on. Like these last 2 or 3 years, I've really grown in wisdom literature because of just being in it and having to teach on it. And Reed's been a big part of that. So I would just say thanks when it comes to that. But yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about that series and just wisdom literature as a whole. But good work there.
Well, I can say too, I mean, thank you. That's sweet of you. Leanne was a part of the New Mexico camp that we were at, and she got to sit through that whole week of you talking through wisdom literature. And she said, that was the best thing I've ever heard Marty do. And she was, and not to take away from other things, I mean, she was in Israel a couple of years ago and heard that whole, which is very excellent material.
Wow.
But she really connected as a person, also just she works as a professional counselor, and I think she saw so much goodness in what you were saying and was resonating a lot with her experience. Anyway, this isn't about New Mexico, but just to say, I think you're coming along really well with the wisdom literature, Marty, and you should be proud.
Wish I had a sound effect for that.
For me, though, I will say that it was really good. And I do agree. I feel like we kind of hit our stride a little bit more this session. I know that for myself personally, when I first came on in season 6, we did a couple of deconstruction sort of talking episodes, and I thought that those were comfortable and kind of in my range. And then I actually felt like I got a little bit out of my comfort area in some of the verse by verse stuff, and John just kind of realizing it was a little awkward for me. I kind of felt like I fumbled my way through it a little bit, and had moments of like, what is my place on this podcast? Where am I going to really find the spot that feels like me here, and just some growing pains and that kind of thing. And being able to do the Psalm series was really good just for me personally. Felt like I kind of found that place, found the intersection of my own sensibilities and Bible and Bema all together. So I was really glad for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to what's coming in the future, doing more of our own series then. But we're not talking about that now.
We're not talking about that now. We're going to talk about that later.
One of my favorite moments from the Psalm series, maybe of the entire session, was springing on Reed the opportunity to read Psalm 19.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I did love that because I do love reading out loud. And I have heard a number of really good feedback things on the Psalm 19 there, Brent, and the airplanes and the flying and all of that.
Oh, so good. That was what
People really love that.
Yeah, that was, I think, my. We're trying to stay away from having favorite moments, but I think that was my favorite moment of the series was Brent's. I'll call it Brent's episode in that series.
Totally. It totally was Brent's episode, and it was out of the park. It was awesome.
It was so good.
Well, it does contextualize for people why I am always posting flights and photos from airplanes.
I think that's part of why it struck me. That episode caught me off guard. I didn't know that was coming. I wasn't paying attention to the schedule or the episodes or what was, and that one caught me. I had physiological reactions to that episode because I know Brent so well. I know his passions to talk about that content. It would have been fine without that. That was a really, really good episode. I really liked it. One of my favorites. I think it would be a top 10 Bema episode at this point. So good.
Ooh.
Wow. High praise. And well deserved.
It is based on Foreman's work, so that does actually make sense.
Checks out. That's Bema. Bema gold always comes from Rabbi Foreman.
Yeah.
Elle or Josh, any of you guys have favorite moments from the Psalm series?
Not to be self-centered, but I loved the Psalm 137 that we did. I thought I loved there were multiple voices with different spaces for how do we feel about retributive violence and how does that hit, and our discussion about forgiveness and what that looks like, and all of that was just really lovely.
Agree. That was a good discussion.
Yeah. Also, not to be just centered on the episodes that I was most involved in, but I had a baby, so pretty much anything more than a week ago feels like a decade ago.
Sure.
But what I really liked, I liked both of the Psalm 23 episodes. What I particularly liked about them is I feel like in both of them we kind of got into a little bit of a playful space. Like we were, I remember in the first Psalm 23 episode where we were talking about like how we were using the images and hearing, Brent's image of like sheep at a table and Reed's image of the enemies and the field. Anyway, that whole back and forth, and then when Elle came on and led the other one, especially being able to dig into the Hebrew and even like play around with some of the translation. That was just a lot of fun, and to me that's one of the coolest things about the Psalms is how much they kind of force us to when we really want to connect with them. A lot of times the images are the things that we're confronting, and to be able to do that in a fun, playful, creative way was really amazing.
I really appreciated both of what Josh and Elle brought to the Psalm 23 discussion, because that's a passage that is well worn and for good reason. And I think both of those episodes really, for me, brought out things that I had never considered before on this psalm that I'd heard 1,000 times before. So breaking out of the lullaby effect for sure on that one.
Team Ravine, not Gorge or Valley, thanks to Yehoshua.
I love that. I forgot about that. That was a great series. It just was. I was actually on the road recently, and somebody was at the Psalm 23 episode, and we just talked for like 3 hours about like, do you think it could be read that way? Like, do you think that's what's going on? Like, we talked about authorial intent. We talked about like, what are the possibilities? And it was just, now you guys bring up all these other episodes. That was a really, really great series. Let's jump to another one. Oh, I should probably not forget mine. We started session 8 with Isaiah. That was like, good old Bema, with the apostrophe. Good old Marty doing Marty's typical half exegesis, half waxing eloquent. I'm being too mean on myself, but I mean, Isaiah, anything that you guys think about or jump out on, with the Isaiah discussions that we had? That was probably the longest. That's going to be the hardest to remember. That was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
All I can remember is the Doc Hypo conversation. I've been thinking about it ever since.
That was fun to battle it out. I loved when you brought in Septuagint stuff, because that's not my
Sure.
my usual way that I approach a text, and so it's always good and refreshing to look at something through a different lens.
Yeah, totally. I think splitting it up into 2 parts instead of the 4 voices was fun for me, because I used to like really plant my flag on these multiple voices of Isaiah, and instead just every scholar seemed to notice, those 2 parts of Isaiah. And so organizing around that was actually really helpful, fun for me, whatever.
There was a conversation that you were having earlier on in the series. I don't even remember if this is one of the ones that we did together. It really does feel like an age ago that we were recording that material. But talking about the tension between, the scholarly approach and its merits, and also weaknesses, and then like the more kind of devotional sort of approach to the prophetic texts. And I feel like you walked that line really well through the series. I'm trying to remember, there was a certain moment where, and yet it also felt like every moment, because it was very classic Bema of diving into just the emphasis on, it really does matter how we walk. It really does matter that we pursue justice. It really does matter that we love these vulnerable people. Maybe it was in the fasting, when you were talking about the fasting episode later on in the series. I don't remember exactly, but I just felt, I was listening to it. I remember I was in my kitchen making dinner, and it just kind of stopped me, and I was like, man, this is the classic Marty that I love, where I now feel like that fire being kindled in me to, like, let's go do what God wants us to actually do. Let's go love the people that God wants us to love. It was a powerful moment for me. I just wish I could remember exactly which episode it was. Yeah. but the feeling, the punch to the gut, that's what lingers. And I definitely felt it.
Nice.
I start a graduate class. I go back to school for the first time in 20 years on Monday. As we record this, it'll be Monday. And so
first day
I haven't even
school.
had orientation yet. Apparently there's no syllabus day, because I already had homework. I had these 5 scholarly abstracts I had to read for a class on liberating Bible, basically biblical hermeneutics, opening class to my groundwork, which is right in my alley. But you're reading like 5 different takes of how to do this. And I just realized how much my teachers, however I experienced my teachers and their teaching, mash those things together for better or for worse. And there's probably a fun value in that. I definitely don't keep them pulled apart on a technical level. But I was like, I do that. Oh, but I seamlessly do that too. Oh, those are supposed to be separate things, but I put them together. So, oh, well.
I feel like that's very Bema, though. Like, it's, the, like what we were just talking about with the academic conversation or the rabbinic conversation, where it's like,
And then a little bit of punching people in their kitchens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Marty's hermeneutic. We love it.
Proverbially.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Let's Elle's Talmudical Matthew series. What were some of our favorite moments with Elle's stuff?
Really loved the conversation on the minutia of interpreting dreams. just have found that very applicable in my own life. We need to actually apply. Elle has been texting out the group some wild Bema-related dreams, but suffice to say, they are wild and hilarious and very thought-provoking. So I think we need to exercise some of those principles when it comes to interpreting your dreams. Really love that. I remember at some point, Elle, I'd sent you a text message. I was mowing and listening to a number of your episodes back to back, and I thought it was just so great. And this is just speaking generally on the thing and not to a specific point. But it also felt to me, I think I mentioned something like this in the text. It felt like so true to like the core of the Bema thing. And just like to another level, another degree, we often are hearing things about Talmud and Midrash. But for you to like take the time to go so in depth with that and to be able to pull out so many particular references. One in particular that stood out to me was learning that it was kind of taboo to fish with nets, and then just thinking about the implications of that for the calling of the disciples and the way of Jesus. That's a particular moment that stuck with me. But just it feels so very you and like such a strong, like it's Bema with like this more potent flavor thrown in that's really great. That's probably a bad analogy for it, but I thought overall the work is, I think, so interesting and just really, really good stuff.
Thank you.
Maybe potent saltiness.
Ooh. Yeah.
I haven't listened to that episode yet.
That was a horrifying yet ultimately beautiful moment when I published that episode, whatever it was, $3.99, and then I opened up the folder the next day to start editing episode 400 and found out that 400 was supposed to be the second half of what was $3.99.
You scrambled.
Didn't tell Marty about that. Didn't tell Marty about that ahead of time because that would not be good for his health.
Yeah.
But Josh made that comment like, man, I wish I had time to talk about Salt and Light. So I said, Josh, let's do it.
We have time.
And that was great. Like, just, I mean, we had like a couple of little, I mean, we were going through every verse of Matthew, but even then in session 3, like we were still just skipping a rock and we just keep coming back to these passages, and it's like layer upon layer upon layer, and to have like 2 pretty decent sized layers right on top of each other like that was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was also very surreal with how like I got messages on Slack from people about the episode like a week after we recorded it, and I'm like, what? How do you know what we recorded? that was one of the most surreal moments for me on the podcast. We're getting into the territory of when my baby has memory hold. I know I've listened to some of Talmudic Matthew because I had thoughts on it at one point in time.
It's amazing how having the baby just is like that Men in Black memory wipe thing. It just takes things and they just disappear.
Literally watched Men in Black last night, by the way, so good timing on that.
Wow. Here we are.
Wow.
We're just on the
Linked psychically.
Exactly. The thing that I love about Elle's Talmudic series is not only there was the things I expected, like the wisdom that we can glean, the insight we get from thinking about the Mishnaic, the Talmudic, the Second Temple conversation that's happening around the Gospels. But then like this unintentional or unexpected reminder that this thing that we study about doesn't happen in a vacuum. Judaism isn't anchored to our Jesus perspective. That probably comes off wrong, but it's true. Like the Jesus thing happens within a larger Jewish world and a larger Jewish conversation that continues for some time. And I don't know, it was just, that part was this unforeseen, I was pulled kind of outside of Matthew into this larger conversation into which Matthew is happening. And that was I really liked that. And the 2 Salt episodes were those were just fantastic. Unexpected little goodies on both of those, and I just loved it.
You know, I do like, obviously, I like the big chunky things, like talking about what is a blessing and let's figure that out. Let's come up with a definition and check it in the text and do all of this kind of stuff. But I also, the little nuggets really are what bring the joy throughout. Like prepping next season, discovered anyone who hates dogs, according to Talmud, is probably a necromancer. So it's those kinds of little things that keep me going, like, oh, really? Okay. Good thing I don't hate dogs.
Especially when you get to like put that in some teaching in that next week and it sinks into your consciousness, so it's in your memory bank to keep pulling back to that. That's what I do love about those little quirky things you learn, is if I can find a way to teach this on Wednesday, it will be there forever.
Perfect.
All right, I think we had one series left, which we only know the parts that we contributed to, but Josh's series on Sabbath practice, which I just love. I love that we have a Sabbath practice series on the regular. Like, I just absolutely love that. I love
once every 7 seasons.
Ooh.
Oh, I can't wait that long.
It's biblical, Josh.
Maybe we'll have to make it once every 7 series. How about that?
The Torah doesn't say you can't do an extra Shemitah. It just says you have to do it every 7.
Well, I love that nothing is more true to Bema's beginnings than continuing to go back there. And just like you said, Josh, we can just get on lullaby effect. We can just do the broken record thing, or we can keep pressing in to go, okay, let's look at this, but let's look at this again. Let's ask a whole nother set of questions about I can remember in one of our episodes, you were talking about I can't remember how you worded it, but how to come out of Shabbat. Mm-hmm. And I thought you were talking about like how to literally leave the 7th day. I was prepping the conversation for like, how do you get out of Saturday into Sunday? And you were doing something totally different. I loved that. I loved that whole conversation. So yeah. I love talking Sabbath all the time, every time. But
yes,
other moments that I don't know your guys' we only know our own episodes. So what about your guys' own episodes with Josh?
I love the whole series concept in general, even though I haven't heard all of it, because it's so easy for at least me, right, to get caught up in like the fun facts and the constructs and the fun history and culture and blah, 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 blah. And Josh, from what I've noticed anyway, and what I know of you as a person, is so passionate about incarnating the things we believe and walking them out. And what does that actually look like? Not just talking about walking them out, but like day to day, moment to moment, time to time, week to week. What are we actually doing? So I love that you put that together as a series, and then asked us pop quiz style, like, what do you do to Shema or Shabbat? Oh no! After I hung up and drove away, I was like, oh, I do so much more than I actually said. And I just forgot. Dang it. I look like a heathen. But no, it's just so much fun, but also super helpful, and practical. And so I really appreciated that.
Oh, so glad.
I remember that we were talking about all the different kinds of nuances and qualifications, how Sabbath is going to look different for different people, and what might be a good Sabbath exercise for one is not necessarily the best for another.
Yeah.
Which is always a question that I'm wrestling with pastorally when I'm talking to people about this. And I remember we got toward the end of the conversation and I said, okay, so if you can kind of distill it to like its essential, like what's kind of the essential definition for Sabbath or the essence of it. And you said something and it had to do with, I think, stillness, and the word joy came in. There was a particular way that you said it that I can't remember. Do you remember what you said?
I think I can, because I remember the essence of it, I think, which is that it's when we are still long enough to find joy in the goodness of God's creation that is already there.
Mm.
Yes, that has, like, that sentiment has stuck with me, and I think about that, actually thought about that often in whatever particular activities I have found myself doing on like the day of rest, and think, okay, help me like still Where is the joy here? It really has been super helpful for my own particular pursuits, and to be able to put that in somebody's pocket when they're like, well, what should I do? And I'm like, well, do you feel like you can be still within that to like find this joy that is there? So for me, that was the moment in our conversation. I really appreciated it.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, I'm feeling so blessed right now. That's wonderful.
Shoot, now I want to listen to your guys' episode. It's got to be coming soon. Well, I will just give a closing thought of what I really enjoyed as, what's my title, Brent? Creator and executive producer? EP?
I mean, do we want to talk about the interviews? We could consider that a series of its own.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that first. And then I'll give some closing thoughts. And if we haven't had enough nonsense yet, we'll give ourselves some space to do whatever we need to do. But yeah, our interviews for session... Brent, remind me, you probably have the schedule close by. What interviews were there in session 8?
We had the spiritual elder care episode, the Lisa Bosley.
Yeah, the one that Elle led us through. That was super great. I really enjoyed listening to that. Yeah.
Then we had Preston Ulmer, Deconstruct Faith, Discover Jesus. And you're going to visit them soon, or you already have?
Yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll already have happened, but this next weekend. I had to hang out with Preston, and a new relationship started there. And I don't know if any of the rest of you, if you have any thoughts as you remember these interviews, feel free to jump in. But yeah, Preston, fellow NavPress author, I believe, is how we got connected. And another voice talking about deconstruct. I loved his work with the Doubters Club. I just love the idea of validating doubt. Wherever that happens, wherever people are validating doubt well, and giving people space to do that and say it's okay, I'm always excited about those things.
Yeah, and really all of us in our individual ministries and work deal with doubt. And so this is kind of a familiar conversation.
Personally, though, never personally.
No, never.
Everybody else's doubt, not mine.
Right.
I thought it was a requirement, like a qualification for being a host on this show, is that you have to feel only certainty about everything.
What is
all the
your
time.
deep well of existential doubt? Absolutely.
That's next episode's topic.
Then we had Leah Schrumpf with Entering Our Stories.
Yes. I asked Leah to come and help us at our next all staff conference. She was busy, but we're gonna have some more conversations in our world with Leah at some point. But really fun listening to her. Absolutely.
Well, it wasn't in the episode, but after we stopped recording, she basically gave me an impromptu counseling session that I'm still reeling from.
Yes,
actually,
absolutely.
Wow.
I gotta listen in on some of that. It was great.
Boy, it was intense.
Harrowing.
I'm pretty much an open book with people if they're willing to ask me direct questions, and she was just asking and not letting me off the hook with easy answers, and so it happened.
Yeah,
right on.
Dang.
Then we had Derek Vreeland, Centering Jesus.
Yep.
Great book that I feel like works really well for a lot of the people that I'm around in my physical life. And then right after that, another NavPress author, Tommy Brown. I said this on the episode with Tommy, but reading that book, I was gonna blast through that book like in 24 to 48 hours before that interview. And I got one section in, and he's like, "Man, just stop trying to do so much. Just rest." I'm like, well, now I can't finish this book, or I'm a hypocrite.
I love Tommy because he was just he's just a fun guy. In person and on the interview, I love his sense of humor, and he'll be one of my interviews I'll look back on as like, that was one of the more fun conversations I had.
Then we had our Impact colleague, Mitch Lavender.
We do love Mitch. Josh, you know Mitch well. We do love Mitch.
I love Mitch. He's over at my house all the time.
Yeah.
We hang out a lot. I love Mitch.
Yeah, as Josh transitioned his role into more of a Bema focus, he was the Cincinnati lead campus minister, and Mitch is now in that role. So Josh got to hand that off to Mitch, and we've known Mitch a long time, in Bema circles and stuff. So
I got to know him on the Slack, and then as he was there for the assessment when we hired him on, and I love that dude. It's he's legitimately, him and his family, closest friends we got right now. They're over here all the dang time. They're really wonderful, wonderful people. I think I even mentioned him on in one of our Sabbath episodes, or maybe multiple.
You did. And we got a lot of great feedback from that conversation. Just the appropriate, people really feel like, man, that was just the right mix of challenge, but resonance and balance. And not that balance is what you're striking for all the time, but in that conversation that a lot of our listeners really appreciated. That was a challenging conversation where I felt like we were square in the middle of what we should be wrestling with. And that was good.
Then we had Mariko Clark, The Book of Belonging.
So good. Just listen to that episode this morning as we record this. Man, what an incredible resource, honestly. But got to meet her in Indy. Was that before you guys recorded the episode? Was it after the interview had happened? I can't remember.
It was before.
And that was cool. Like I was at a friend's house and she lived like right next door. And it was just like the weirdest, because we didn't plan that. I had no idea. And then here's this person that's slated to do an interview with Elle. And she's like the next door neighbor of a house in another city that I don't live in, that I happen to be staying at. And that was fun. Really, really, she's an unbelievable person, but the resource itself just sounds really looking forward to that coming out because it sounds amazing.
It was a joy to work on.
Well, and we had one last interview too, Brent, and that was with Dr. Sandra Richter.
Oh, boy. Sandy,
as her publicist told, and she said, yes, please call me Sandy, which felt so wrong on every level. But that I love having these scholars that you study and you just kind of have on a dream. Like she's literally in my notebook on who are the scholars that I hope will say yes. I don't know. Dream list might be a little dramatic of a statement, but who are the scholars that I would just really hope someday I could have on?
She was on one of your earliest recommends to me when I was an undergrad. You were like, listen, this book.
Oh,
and here we are.
And I think you haven't heard it yet, Elle, but I think she's got a new Bible study out in Deborah.
Ooh.
And I think you're just going to love some of the stuff she says in that episode about Judges and the female characters in Judges, and just so
amazing.
Good. I loved it. That was Brent, how'd you feel about that interview?
I cried many tears of joy as we were doing that interview when she was talking about being on the translation committee for the NIV and some of the conversations they've had.
Yes.
She was like, well, we've had conversations about should we include contractions in the biblical text, and if we do, should God use contractions or not? And I'm just like, this is the nerdery that I live for. I would die to be in that room for these conversations.
I'm not sure I've seen a smile. I remember looking at you. I'm not sure I've seen a smile that big recording a podcast than when she was talking about whether or not you should use contractions. I'm like, this is so Brent Billings right now. This is the most Brent conversation ever.
That rocks.
Amazing.
It was great.
Well, there we go. That was the interview section of session 8. I will just give this closing thought, and anybody else can add anything they want to before we're done. But one of my greatest joys with this session was not being in the middle of planning the whole thing. I planned my part of it, and then all the rest of you planned yours. And so what that meant, like, I don't know what some of our listeners think might happen behind the scenes, but we will probably see somebody's schedule, like what they plan to do, the outline of their series, but we don't necessarily comb through that, look through. So those series for me are a surprise. I know the episodes that I contributed to, but I have no idea. And the joy from this session was so great. Like listening to each of your series come from you. I didn't plan it. I had no idea. Didn't even help. Like it was, I'm listening to it like any other listener. And I'm like, man, if this is what people get to experience as a listener, this is fantastic. Cause I just learned. That's what I love. I learned some like incredible things in session 8, and mostly because I simply wasn't involved from beginning to end. And that was a fun joy in session 8. So that'd be my just overall closing thought, and a thank you to all of you hosts for doing that. Session 8 was a like week by week reminder. Oh gosh, this team is so good. Oh gosh, this team is so good. Oh gosh, I love this team. And just love the fact that not only do I trust you guys, but that trust is then repaid with just absolute awesome content. And I hate the word content, not You get what I'm saying. Substance is so good. So good.
Capital for the man.
50 episodes, 50 conversations, 50 ways to consider what God is doing in the world.
Oh, and now I got to start paying attention to our session count so that we can do 72 episodes in a session.
Ooh.
I mean, 50 is a pretty dang good number, biblically speaking. That's not bad
It
at all.
is. It is. That's true. That's very true. It's acceptable. I'm gonna allow it. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's that. What's done is done. Let's get out of here. Let's close this session out. People can go to BehemothDiscipleship.com to find show notes. I don't think we have anything for this episode, but the website's also good for getting in touch with us or whatever. If you want to share some thoughts with Josh on how his Practical Shabbat series has made your life and your Shabbat practice more grounded. I was thinking about this as we were talking about this. I'm jumping back into an earlier conversation, but I was just like looking around. I was like, yeah, Josh has he's got the little elements of all of the rest of us, and then just brings it all down into this grounded state. The rest of us are all like intellectual, philosophical, up in the clouds all the time. And Josh is like, I'm going to take a little bit there, a little bit there. I'm going to bring it all down to the ground. And so this is having an effect on people. So if you want to share that story, if you want to let us know how your Shabbat practice has changed, or if even you started a Shabbat practice because of that series, we'd love to hear that story or any other kind of story. We love hearing from you. It really is just such a joy to do what we do. We are here because of you, because you listen, because you support our work. So we're blessed, and thank you for joining us on the Bema podcast this week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Any other thoughts that people would add before we're all done and let the sun set on session 8?
I'm just glad to be here.
I'm glad to be here with each of you.
Absolutely.
Wait, were you just trying to one up me there? Is that what that was?
100%.
I'm glad to be here with all of you and with our audience. I love you. Mwah, mwah.
Well, I'm just happy to be here for an audience of one.
Oh, Lord.
Jesus juke for the win.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, goodness, Brent. I don't know if you should close this thing out or if you got to take one last final shot, because you have it if you want it.
I'm like, how can I one up this? How can I, or should I just go the humble route?
That's what everybody knows you're going to do, Brent.
Now, Brent was a humble man, the most humble man on the podcast.
True.
That is true.
Also, probably the meekest, i.e., the most depressed. So
Wow.
have to edit all of our garbage out.
It's a joy, honestly.